Welcome to Meander Travel. My name is Julie.
I'm Tony.
I'm the producer, Caleb.
Woohoo! So we are so excited to talk to you guys about London tonight. So ready, 1, 2, 3, wheels up!
We're gonna be two hearts running wild.
Awesome. Well, you guys, we just got back from a trip to London, and wasn't it like the most fun trip ever?
It was a good, we didn't plan it like for a year in advance. We planned it kind of this summer, midsummer. We started learning about, there's a reason why we went. And the reason is the Minnesota Vikings were playing an away game, a home game, but at Tottenham, I've gotten better at saying it, Tottenham Stadium in London against the
New York Jets.
New York Jets with the horrible Aaron Rodgers that we don't like because he used to be with the Green Bay Packers. Anyways,
Have we said that we live in Minnesota?
Yeah, we live in Minnesota.
Okay, so yeah.
How do you say you live in Minnesota without saying you live in Minnesota? Anywho, we planned a trip to London this fall for just to go see a football game, but we did so much more than that.
Yeah, we had a whole week, so we were able to pack in so much more. But kind of funny thing, we're going to back up a little bit because what's ironic about this is we went to France, this summer. And then people are like, you got back in August and now you're going to turn around and go to London in September? We're like, yeah, but this is how we are able to get some really amazing deals. So we booked this trip to London and we actually went through New York City because we had to make a stopover to meet the boyfriend of our daughter, his parents. So we're not going to talk about that. It was an amazing experience. We had a great dinner, but that's not the point of the podcast. But when we were flying to London from New York, we were flying out of JFK.
In early October, by the way, not September, so it wasn't the next month, but just so that people don't think we'd go, let's go to Europe 1 month and then come home and then go back the next.
Okay, I'm so
2 months,
sorry.
Julie. We had 2 months in between.
Oh, 2 months. My apologies. So we were on the night flight out of JFK. So it was like a 10 o'clock p.m. flight. And we knew that it was pretty full.
So, one thing that we like to do when we're traveling is get to the desk immediately at the airport and say, hey, are you oversold? And if they are, we ask, hey, if you're oversold, we will volunteer if the price is right to get bumped. And we love getting bumped. We did it successfully earlier this year and got a couple $1,000s by getting bumped, and it was only 15 minutes later for the flight. This time, they said, yeah, we're oversold by 3 people to go on this overnight flight to London. We said, okay, well, we will volunteer. What's the options? And they said, well, it's going to be $1,500 if you leave tomorrow morning on the next flight. We're like, wait a minute. We did our research. There was another flight with Virgin Atlantic that left an hour and 40 minutes later. And they're a partner of Delta, who we were traveling on. We get paid nothing by these guys. This is not a sponsorship or anything. We just are telling you our story. And they said, hey, we'll give you $1,000 if you take that flight, but $1,500 if you go the next morning. Done. So we left an hour and 38 minutes later, and we arrived an hour and 8 minutes later in London the next morning, the next day, early morning. But we got $2,000 to do it. So pro tip, always ask if you can schedule your flights on a time that is really busy and you have open space on the back end, try to ask and see if you can get bumped and schedule it into your, be flexible. You can get nowadays a lot of money from the airlines because they don't want to have any empty seats. They oversell the planes thinking that some people will not show.
Well, the nice thing, because if you've listened to any of our previous podcasts, you know that we have now gone to backpacking. We carry Cotopaxi backpacks, and we are very appealing customers to the airline because they do not have to rebook and figure out our luggage situation. We're very mobile. So they were very appreciative, like, okay, great, we'll take you because you guys are zero hassle. And when we got rebooked on that Virgin Atlantic flight, we got bulkhead, everybody, 4 seats, right at bulkhead.
Out.
Totally had room. And that's another tip is those big flights across the pond, do not book the bulkhead ahead of time. They save those to move people around, or if they have a family. Those are the ones that also have the cradles for the babies, so they wait to see if they have babies. Anyway, ask and see if you can have bulkhead because it's nice to have that extra space. So yeah, so we were on our way to London with $2,000 in our pocket.
Starting off the trip.
Awesome.
And then we land, and one of my favorite things, I love getting on the metro. And in England, it's called the Underground. But Julie, tell us about getting into
The
town.
Underground, so Tony would just race right through. He just puts his phone up to the thing and boom, he's gone. And he's waiting for me again. I'm like, my phone, I don't know why. Every time I try to put my phone up to it, it should take your credit card. Should be automatic. Mine was not.
Not
and I
unless you
could
set it
not
up.
get it to work. Well, here's the trick, people. Yeah, you have to set it up ahead of time. And I don't know when you did yours, and maybe years ago or something. But what you have to do is you actually have to go into your preferred credit card that you want to be the one that is the kind of automatic payment. You go into the wallet, you click on the card you want to use, you touch those little 3 dots in the right-hand corner, and then you can click on the card details, scroll to the bottom, and then there's a little button that says transit, and you can toggle that button on. And then now that card is now
Express Transit, yeah.
Express Transit. Yeah. So now when you go through those little turnstiles at the metro, beep, you just go right through and you point it right at it. It
key
was
is
slick.
You don't have to go get a little, ticket from the booth. You don't have to go and buy a card. You just walk up to the scanner, tap your phone on it, and the door opens immediately for it. But remember, you have to do it when you leave as well because it counts you in and it counts you out. So that's when you end up paying is when you leave.
So 2 years ago when I was there with Raina, we had to do Oyster cards, and you use those little Oyster cards all the time. It was just like
they didn't taste very good though.
But now, you guys, it's your phone. But here's the thing. You're constantly holding your phone, or you're getting it in and out of your purse or your pocket or whatever. And that does make you a little nervous on the metro sometimes. So Tony hates me for this, but a lanyard works really well. So if you just tuck it into your jacket or your shirt, and then you can pull it out when you need it. He thinks I look like a dork, but it is actually really useful. So anyway, that's a tip. But so yeah, we metroed into town, and then I'll just say a little bit about where we stayed. So we stayed at the Montcalm Piccadilly townhome that we found on Booking.com, and it was just in a great location. Tony picked it because why?
Because it's in a very convenient area. It's right by the West End, Soho, Chinatown. It's not right next to a metro station or an underground station, but it's 4 blocks one direction, 4 blocks another direction, and you can get on different lines at different spots. So there's 3 different places to get on underground on 3 different lines, pretty close by.
Well, it was just a really busy, happening area. It was lots and lots of restaurants,
Great
which, by the way, man, London was so busy. London was busier when we were there than Paris was for the Olympics. There was people everywhere, and it was almost impossible to get dinner reservations, or at least to get into a place you needed a reservation. So the Montcalm, it was really nice. It had plenty of space, and they had free fruit. They gave us a bottle of wine. I mean, it was a really nice spot. They had a lovely garden out the back window, or a park that it overlooked.
It wasn't a big hotel, fancy chain or anything. It was a small little boutique kind of hotel. Calls it the townhouse, but it's a small hotel.
Yeah. So we, not only was the purpose of our being in London to be at the NFL game, but we also had some friends back home that were there as well, also going to the game. But we met up with them.
They were traveling with the Vikings, though.
Yeah, they were a little bougier. They actually got to go with the Vikings. So
And
they're
stayed
more
at
important people than we.
A really swanky hotel.
Yeah. Well, we had just as much fun. But anyway, we met up with them right away at some little restaurant and had some food, which was nice. And then they were midway through the process of finding the 7 Noses of Soho. We're like, what the heck are you talking about?
We're going to do what now? We're going to go from lunch and go look for what?
They had found a couple, and they're like, we're going to go find the rest of the noses. We're like, okay, we don't know what you're talking about, but we're up for it. Just let us know.
The funny thing is, that's something that we would do totally. So
I was actually really impressed because I didn't think they were
Right.
the kind of people that found those things that much. But
Chris and Julie, we love you, but we thought that was our bag. That's your bag too, I guess.
Way
So,
to show us up.
yeah, nice job.
Because I never even found that anywhere. So. So anyway, these 7 Noses of Soho, they're like these nose sculptures that were attached to different buildings in and around town. It was
Plastered onto the walls.
started in 1997 by an artist named Rick Buckley, and he originally did it as a protest against the CCTV cameras that are all over London now, by the way. Everywhere you go, there's cameras on the building.
Everywhere.
He was protesting, so he did 35 reproductions of his own nose in various sizes, and then he attached them to public buildings. And a lot of people didn't like it. They took him down right away. But 7 have stood the test of time, although I think now there's really only 6. I think
There's
one of
6.
them is inaccessible. So they are in locations. You can do like a little walking tour. If you just Google the 7 noses, you can find where they're at. And so then and they're all in a relatively small area. And you go find them attached to the buildings. And it's kind of like a who can spot it first, kind of game.
We did that.
Yeah, it was fun.
And it's not as easy as it looks because, it's maybe the size of your fist on some of them. Some of them are the size of your, elbow and arm. But, so there's big and there's small. But the small ones, and they paint them in with the buildings, they blend
Yeah.
very well.
The first one, I was like, what are we looking for here? Like, I'm not sure how big this is going to be. But
There's photos online for it, of us, seeing them. So you can probably see it on our Instagram or website. Or
it was
whatever.
entertaining. It was an entertaining little thing to do to kind of, walk around, familiarize yourself with the, lay of the land and see different restaurants and stuff. So that was fun.
So another thing that we did was the Spitalfields Market. That's a really cool area. A lot of boutique type stores with also markets where vendors with crafts, hats, clothing, you name it, foods, different things. And that was in an area that we wanted to go to because it also was near Brick Lane. Brick Lane's the street that has all the street art in it. And some people say graffiti, some say street art. That's a big deal and a big culture in London and a lot of big cities. But this one long road is really known for it. And it's really cool. I mean, every wall, every square inch is covered with graffiti and street art. And there's some fun challenges, some things you can do looking for certain things along there. And we had a friend that was that we were visiting in London, and we'll get to in a little while. But I texted him and saying, "Hey, we're in Brick Lane," and he's like, "Did you get to the bagel shop?" And I'm like, "I didn't know where it was." And all of a sudden, I look up, and we were right next to this bagel shop that he was talking about. He says, "It's the best bagels in all of London." Well, when anybody says it's the best coffee, best this, best that, it's something that I want to do. So just to try it. Oh, my goodness.
And can we clarify? It's bagel, not BAGEL, but BEIGEL.
Yeah.
Like bagel.
Bagel. And I don't think we're probably saying that correctly, but that's okay.
Probably not. And it also doesn't look totally like a bagel that you're accustomed to seeing.
The line was out the streets, out onto the street, and I said, "Guys, can you wait for me? Because I got to do this." And I went and got in line, and I'm asking people in line, "What's the best one to get?" And they're like, "Oh, this is the original, this one, that one. Get the salt pork." And I'm like, "What? That doesn't sound so good." But the salt pork bagel. So I got it. Oh my goodness, it was so good.
Yeah, all 4 of us were noshing on it. And
Yeah.
it was huge, actually.
It was a giant
a
sandwich.
very large size, but it was
Big chunk
that
of meat.
salty, tangy. Oh my gosh, it was really good.
Yep. So we did that and walked around and saw the street art. It was a really cool area. We liked that spot.
It's a little bit of an edgier area. It is also the only place we actually saw a rat.
That's true. That's true. But that's okay. I mean, that's okay.
I mean, he was cute. He was minding his own business, just tootling along. But
It's in this very same area that we also later on, and we'll talk about later, went to some speakeasies. And along with that rat, it's the same area that we saw a wild fox in downtown London walking on the street.
yeah, a wild fox, and it was fluffy, bushy, super
Beautiful.
cute, very healthy. Clearly had plenty to eat.
I sat there looking at it. I got some photos of it and just kind of sat on the corner of the street and
Yeah.
in downtown London.
Really,
Anyways,
really a bizarre thing to see. It's also the same area that you would typically go do a ghost tour in that we didn't find time for.
we didn't do a ghost tour in London. How is that possible? You know what? That brings us back to London sometime.
Probably one of the best places in the world to do it, and we just ran out of time. Sad. So anyway, we did the Spitalfields Market. I wanted to just add one thing. So when Raina and I were going to go to London, there's a bunch of different markets. There's Camden Market, there's Spitalfields, and Spitalfields from the local point of view is one of their favorites. So I just thought I would add that. Another place that we went to is Covent Garden, and that is a really famous place in downtown London. That's historically an area where the upper class would leisure and they would enjoy the theater there. Covent Garden was one of the 2 patented theaters, which actually means that it had royal approval and royal attendance, and they usually had a box at that theater as well. The other one is Drury Lane. But that area now is turned into expanse of restaurants and shops. There's buskers in multiple areas around there, and I think they're on a rotation, and they were very professional buskers, didn't you think? The music that we heard?
Yep.
They had a really large following of people
One had a
listening to
dog
them.
that would walk around and like was purposely, I think, to get tips that went to the people, got scratches, and then went back and sat
Yeah, we
on
thought
the
maybe it
artist.
was a lost dog, and then we realized, I think it
part of the show.
actually belongs here. But when we walked by that same area later, it was a different person singing at that same spot. But it's a really fun area. We went to a cute little place called the Wine Place. We just needed a little bit of a snack, so we had a glass of wine and some cheese and whatever. But we talked to a really lovely gal that was a waitress there, and she gave us 3 tips. And they were amazing tips, and all 3 of them we did not do, which is shocking because usually we try to follow the locals' advice. But I will just pass along that she said to go to the Amano rooftop bar. She said it had great views. She also recommended that we catch the Uber boat to Greenwich and then go up to the observatory.
Half point. We'll explain that later.
Half point for
Half
that
point.
one. Sure, I'll give you that. And then she said to take the afternoon tea at the Wallace Collection. And that is actually a museum, kind of a smaller museum. Underrated, she said. It's really a lovely place, and their tea is far less expensive than some of the other fancier ones in town, which if you look at those,
And
they
far
are
less expensive,
really,
yeah.
really pricey. And she said, go there for afternoon tea. Super lovely. It's not a hyped up place, so it's easy to get into. And unfortunately, we just didn't find the time for any of those. So those are on our list to get back to. Another little thing inside Covent Garden, there's also a transportation museum. And it's a large museum. And I also saw it had really, really good reviews. And it kind of tells the history of London through transportation. So all the different forms of transportation, from way back in time, and then how they were building the tube and the underground, and it's really, really cool collection. So we didn't get to that either, but next time.
We were at Covent Gardens for a different reason, which is another reason we'll get to later.
I didn't know that though.
But I didn't tell her why we were going there, and that's speakeasies later. We'll talk about that later.
Okay. So pause on the speakeasy. So another one of the planned activities that we did was a place called Sky Garden. And this is a large skyscraper. It's known to the Londoners as the walkie-talkie because of its kind of...
The shape and where it looks on the...
Yeah.
The thing that we, when you're in London, in these big cities, the things you want to do is you're like, I want to get a really good view. And you're like, oh, there's the Eye of London, the big Ferris wheel. There's different hilltops down at Greenwich at the Maritime, at the...
There's also the Shard, which is that huge bullet-shaped, cool skyscraper building.
But you had read somewhere that the best place to go and with the best timing would be to go to Sky Garden.
Well, it actually is like a huge rooftop garden up there, so it's really beautiful. And then I had
Indoors.
read a secret tip that said if the breakfast opens at the restaurant up there like at 8 o'clock in the morning, but the actual Sky Garden doesn't open till 9, I think, or 10.
10.
So if you book a restaurant appointment, a reservation, you get to go up there early, and then you get to go in when there's no crowds. Yeah, the problem is the day that we were there, they actually didn't open the outside terrace where you get all the views until 11 o'clock. And we were done by breakfast well before then.
Yeah, we had like an hour and a half to wait. We're like, we're not
We just
waiting for an
didn't.
hour and a half to sit and see a view that's just on the other side of this plexiglass.
I mean,
So
we had lovely views from our restaurant and from walking around in the interior. And even if you go out to the terrace, the plexiglass is quite tall. It's like 12 feet tall. So it is. No, it is really tall. You can't reach over or take photos or whatever. It's way above. But it was kind of unfortunate that we were kind of stuck inside the building without the views we intended. But it was really beautiful. Highly recommend it. They do all kinds of events like New Year's events and parties. And there's evening. You can do the evening tour up there as well, too.
So from there, we walked after breakfast. Instead of staying there for the high top views, we decided to walk down to Tower Bridge. And Tower Bridge is the old iconic bridge, that you can see, that every photo of London with the river shows Tower Bridge. Mm-hmm. Very old. There's a lot of history to it. There was a old zoo that was attached to it. And when any of the animals came from Africa or from other nations way, way, way back, they would send we're going to send a zebra and an elephant and a giraffe, and they'd send it, and they kept it at the base and the end of the Tower Bridge.
I did not know that. Where did you see that?
I did a lot of historical
You're
research.
a font of knowledge. You are.
So I had read about that and the area, the cool things that happened that are a long time ago there. But I also then when in my research, I found that everybody and their brother takes photos of Tower Bridge, and they're all on the bridge or they're at the side of the bridge. Well, it's all up at bridge height level or street level. But I had heard and read, by the way, not read. I didn't read TikTok. The Horsley Down Steps. Now, I don't know if I'm saying it, probably I'm saying it right, but Horsley Down Steps. Now, you go to the south side of the river, cross the bridge, down the stairs, and it's one building over to the east. And there's a little stairway up, walk through the hallway, and a little stairway down, and that stairway walks you down to the River Thames. So you actually walk down onto the rocks, down to the sand, down to the mud, and to the water, and you can stand right, you can go into the water if you want, and you're taking photos of Tower Bridge from the water. You know, you can do the reflections, you can do really cool angles.
And nobody was down there.
Hardly anybody.
Although
There's
people started
thousands of people on
following
the
us.
bridge. Yeah.
So then all of a sudden,
Yes.
more people came. But
When we got down there was like 2 people down there. And with us down there, by the time we left, there was dozens of people that had found their way to that spot because they wanted to figure out how to get there.
still super easy to get your photo taken, without people in it. And then it was funny at one point, there was this like buoy, or not a buoy, but like a life preserver?
Yeah,
that
ring,
was
or life
floating down the river. And it was mysteriously just floating down the river. And we're like, Tony, save the life preserver, save it, get it. And of course, he finds a stick or something and he's like, I got this. He's out there fishing it out.
So one of the things I'd also heard about doing in that area or on the Thames is with the tide going in and out in the low levels is mudlarking. And I always thought this was really cool, is people that do it with metal detectors, but they search along the river because this is such an old town that everything, it's super dirty, but there's a ton of stuff down in the mud and in the rocks, and you look for things, and it's called mudlarking, and you try and find stuff stuck in the mud at the bottom of the river.
We found some pottery shards.
Lots of
and
pottery.
we have no idea from what era they may have been.
No.
We figured probably not that old, but still, it was kind of cool. Like when you see archaeologists, I was like, ooh, pottery shards.
Yeah. Yeah. My Curse of Oak Island came and hit me like, ooh, this pottery isn't that old because it doesn't have a lot of filler in the middle. It's very fine pottery. I'm like, oh God, I'm such a nerd at this point.
You kept it though.
I did. I brought it home. My wife's like, why are you keeping them? I'm like, because I found it. It was fun.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could kill a few hours just, enjoying mudlarking, I suppose, if you wanted to. But later in one of those evenings, okay, we found a place. We talk about speakeasies a lot. And there was a point on this trip where I actually told Tony, I think I might be getting a little bit tired of the speakeasies. Like we're just
because they're destinations and not just stumble upon. You have to know you're going to them to find them, and it's different than just walking around the streets and finding a cool place to stumble in and just go to a bar.
Yeah, they take a little bit more effort, and that's great. That's fun. But we went to one, and it was called Mr. Fogg's Exploration, and there's actually over 20 of them. It's kind of a chain, but in the chain they have really, really cool different things. They have like a gin tasting room. They have cocktail master classes. They have each one of their little places is called something different. But this whole Mr. Fogg's Exploration is based on the world-renowned explorer Phileas J. Fogg from the Jules Verne novel. And if you guys remember, he was the Englishman that kind of wagered that he could travel around the world in 80 days. And all of these little locations are based on his explorations and maybe the artifacts he may have brought back or would have brought back. And it was the coolest environment.
So it may be a chain, but each one of these destinations is completely different interior and different designs and different motifs inside. Like one was a lamp shop.
There's a gin parlor, an apothecary, a treehouse, a hat tavern, a pawnbroker's. Like each one has its own theme, and they're all really unique. And
We
they
said
all
we're
look
going to go to
different.
all of them, and we had no idea how many there were.
Well, the silly thing was that literally around the corner from our hotel was one of the taverns, and we're like, "Oh, there's one right here,"
And we didn't go into it.
Whereas the other one that we went to, we had to search it out, but the decor in there is just so quaint. They have the lighting, they have the cocktails. it's like my happy place, honestly. I need to go all 20 of them because that's all I need in my life. I don't necessarily have to go through a secret door. Just that.
So the next day, in the middle of the trip, right smack dab in the middle of our week, was the Minnesota Vikings versus the Minnesota Vikings versus the New York Jets game at Tottenham Stadium. And the reason why it was a really cool thing for us to go to this one is, we're season ticket holders, kind of, really like the Vikings, but not like, crazy. We just thought, hey, it's a destination. It's like going to destination concerts. We get to go to a destination football game for our favorite team. So we thought it was a natural. I'm going to give you a little background, back up 18 years. So we always talk about having friends and meeting friends on trips and talking to them and keeping those friendships alive. And this is one of them. So 18 years ago, I think it was 18 years ago.
We met him in 2009.
All right, whatever that is. Math
15?
is hard. Okay. So we were on a trip to Mexico with our neighbors, and it was all inclusive. So you're sitting around playing volleyball. You're doing the same thing every day after day. We met this 18-year-old guy and another guy that was 18, one from Sweden, one from Norway. And we hung out with them because they wanted
One from Sweden, one from
I'm sorry,
England.
one from England. Yeah, I'm sorry, did I say Norway? And they both wanted to play volleyball, and we were sitting around. So we were young at heart and playing sports.
We're fun. We're very fun people.
We're fun people. So we played a lot of volleyball, and then that night we go to the discotheque and dance and drink. And
There was nothing else to do, to be fair.
right. But we became fast friends with these young guys, and so much so that when we left, a couple years later, Aaron from England came to the United States and traveled with a buddy, Ben, and they came into the East Coast, Boston, got a car, traveled all around to the West Coast, up, around, and came back and stopped into Minnesota and stayed with Julie and I because of our friendship meeting in Mexico. They got to know our daughters, played basketball, hung out for a day. Then they went on their way and went back to Boston, and after a couple months of traveling, went back to UK.
It's pretty cool, really, because Minnesota's not like the most exciting
yeah.
destination. So for them to take the time to come see
They
us.
came to see us, and
it was awesome.
It was really neat.
Yeah, it was really
so
cool.
our friendship has endured thanks to Facebook, and that's a good thing because otherwise we probably never would be able to know how to speak to each other or see each other. So
Yeah.
we've followed him. He's got married, kids. It's just really cool to see how his life has progressed. Well, it came out that the Vikings were going to come to London, and I got on Messenger with him and said, hey, we're coming to London. You want to go to a game? And he's like, yeah. So Ben, who doesn't live in the same town, came down from up north, and Julie and I planned a whole day to get together with him, and we met him in the morning at the bar early at the pub, and we sat and drank with him all day, then went to the game, had an absolute riot where the Vikings won, so that adds more fun to it. And it was really cool just to hang out with them all day, both of them. Kind of brought back a lot of memories, and it's really fun to keep those friendships going.
Yeah, it was a special thing, but at the pub, I thought it was so cool because, first of all, there were a lot of Vikings jerseys there, but almost every single person in that pub had a jersey on, and they don't probably live there. I mean, they probably live there. They're not
from
NFL
Minnesota.
fans even. They maybe, who knows why they all had jerseys, but they're all different jerseys too. It wasn't like one table full of Vikings and another table full of New York Jets. No, it was like one person had on an Arizona jersey and another one had a Baltimore and another one had a New England.
I was walking down the street and took a picture of the group in front of me. I have 8 or 9 different jerseys directly in front of me, all walking just because they don't live in a town with a team. So hey, somewhere along the lines, I liked Cowboys, or I liked this, or so they just got a jersey, and when it's time to go to a game, they wear that jersey.
Yeah,
I'd say on that game, because people ask me all the time, like, was there a lot of people from Minnesota? Probably less than 10%. I mean, maybe at the most 10%. I'd say 80%, 70% were Vikings fans in the stadium.
70%.
Yeah, I'd say it was way more purple. It was our home game.
Way more purple, for
but
sure.
There was Jets fans, and then there was a good 10 to 15% probably of other teams, just random jerseys.
Maybe more.
And almost all of them were British or Vikings fans that were German. A few years back, there was a Minnesota Viking player that was born and raised in Germany, which there's no German people, like born and raised Germans in the NFL. And this guy, so when the Vikings went over and played one time in Germany, all of Germany fell in love with the Vikings because they had a German player. So if you're a German person and you like the NFL, you're probably liking the Minnesota Vikings. So there was tons of people that had traveled up from Germany for the weekend to go to that football game. So we mostly saw British and a lot of German and hardly anybody from Minnesota.
Well, having said that, we got together with some of our Minnesota friends. We knew 2 different, families from Minnesota
Right.
that were there.
And one of them we ran into, we planned it, we text each other and said, hey, and we got a little photo op together. And somebody that I used to work with at our office, many years ago, but stayed friends. And anyways, so it was a lot of fun. Then we went out afterwards. And, oh, by the way, I probably butchered this, but I probably already spoke about how we all knew each other. But we did an interview with Aaron and Ben because after the game, maybe popped up a little bit. We decided to have a little interview talking
And
because
by
we didn't
popped
know
up, you just meant that we had
a
some
couple
beverages.
a couple beverages at the pub and at the game. So we did a little interview. We'll probably play that right about now.
Tottenham. Hello. We are here in Tottenham after the Minnesota Vikings versus the New York Jets game in London. And we are with Aaron and Ben. And Aaron and Ben are friends of ours. They live here in England. Julie and I traveled over here to come see the Minnesota Vikings defeat the Jets, which they did 23-17. SKOL. And we're going to give you a little background real quick in case we haven't already done it. Aaron and Julie and I met in 2009 in February in Mexico. And he was a nice a young man that hung out with a bunch of older people as we were playing beach volleyball, and he was drinking in the bars with us. Yeah. And we became friends and we stayed in touch. And then a year and a half later, he and his friend Ben, his mate from home, came over and visited us in Minnesota and got to meet our kids. And they're both with us now. Say hello, Ben.
Hello.
Hello,
this is Aaron.
And Aaron. And this is the kind of stuff that we like to do. We get to meet people from all over the world, and we have now had them in our home and staying with us in Minnesota, and now we are here traveling and hanging out with them in London. So thank you for your hospitality.
No, thank you for coming and seeing us. It's
Great. You're going to have to put that mic up closer, probably.
No, thank you so much for coming and seeing us. It's lovely.
It was awesome. How fun. It was like seeing old friends, new friends.
So you guys came over and you did a whirlwind trip in the United States. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yep. So we started in New York, went down the East Coast to Philadelphia, Washington, Atlanta, Miami, and then we went along the South, along New Orleans, Texas,
San Diego. We're at the west coast up into Canada.
Yep. And then up to Vancouver, and then we stopped in some of the national parks that were lovely. So Yosemite and Yellowstone National Park, and then we came over to see you guys.
Yeah, riveting Minnesota after all of those wonderful places. You came, but it was kind of on invitation. We had Dairy Queen.
Yep.
They had never had Dairy Queen, and if you know it's
The Mall
of America.
Mall of America.
true, a lot of shopping.
Yep.
But our girls, our 2 daughters, loved having you there. You played basketball with them.
We did.
And they took you. We all went to Dairy Queen, which is a ice cream shop in the United States, but they don't have it in England.
No, they don't have it in England. And I remember Fante and Raina completely like crawling over us, exactly like my children now do to Ben when he comes and visits.
So Aaron, you have 2 kids now of your own.
Yeah, I have 2 kids, Olivia and Ben. They are 6 and 5, and they are complete renegades. But it reminded me a lot of when we came and visited you guys. They climb all over us. Love anyone who visits. Even after one day of visiting today, they want Ben to live with us. So
Of course.
Ben's a jungle gym for them, climbing all over them.
yeah,
So I find it fascinating that we get to travel and then come to another country and get to hang out all day with you today. We had so much fun at the Tottenham Stadium, which is a soccer stadium for us, but for you guys, it's a football stadium. And there's multiple NFL football games every year. That was cool. Very cool for us. It was a home game for the Minnesota Vikings, but SKOL. All the decoration. It was. You guys got to understand how surreal that was. We're season ticket holders. We go to a lot of the games, and that game was. It was all the branding, all the sounds there. They had the Galler horn, which is a big horn that sounds like a Viking horn. The announcer was our home announcer. So everything that happened there felt like a home game, except there was a big hole in the roof. And we're playing the Jets, and we're in London. It was super unique.
Yeah, it must be quite like different to say English kind of soccer environment. So we every 2 years, every 4 years, we have either a European tournament or a World Cup tournament where our main team that we support, which would be our country, goes overseas and we support them and we play, and it's a really good kind of home environment in the local area. Whereas this is NFL coming to the UK, kind of trying to establish the roots here of the base support, the loud crowds. You know, there was lots of Viking supporters here today, and it's gaining a foothold in the UK, which is a new emerging market. Which
I think that there'll be
important.
I think there'll be an NFL team in London probably in the next 5, maybe 10 years, but 5 years. I think they're going to put a team over here. I don't know what they're going to call it. We tried to come up with names.
Yeah, we had
come
this
up with any
discussion
good ones.
earlier.
But
Julie, you came up with a good
That's the
suggestion.
Black Knights.
Black Knights or London Knights or I don't know.
anyways,
Yeah.
it would be great to have you guys back over to Minnesota. You're both more than welcome anytime at our place, and we look forward to obviously seeing you guys again in the future. This was a lot of fun, so thank you so much.
No, thank you. It was
Thank you for having us.
yeah, it was amazing. Like as much as distance and time and everything pulls everyone apart, these small moments in time brings us all back together. So it's lovely.
It does. It felt like it was yesterday, and it was
Exactly.
like what 14 years ago almost. I mean,
It's crazy.
it's crazy, but it feels like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
We all look a little older.
Yeah. I think I had a full head of hair last time we
And I
met, so-
shaved my beard this morning because it's all white. And you didn't see me like that before. So, but thanks, guys. Ben and Aaron, thanks for coming up with us today. We had a lot of fun with you, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
No, thank you so much. All the best. Thank
Bye.
you.
Okay, so there's the talk with Aaron and Ben. That was where we parted ways after we were standing in a park taking that interview. We got on a bus, a very slow bus back
Very,
down.
very slow, long bus. I think I fell asleep.
That when they say go to the games, the underground to get back to the hotel was hours long wait to get into the underground. So
Yeah.
we said, let's just get on a bus and go towards our hotel. Well, that was equally as long, but it was okay. It was fun.
I mean, it might have been just as bad the other way. But one thing about the stadium, too, because people have asked me, what does the stadium look like? Like, actually, it was really cool. It was open air. However,
In
the
the center.
seats were covered. You know, so there was a center of open air. Yeah, the seats were covered. But at one point in time, it did start raining. And from what we could tell, it looked like on the other side of the stadium, the rain was coming at a slant. Those people were getting wet.
Well, we were on the upwind side of it, so the wind brought the rain into the stadium. It kept on going, and a lot of people on one corner were getting just poured
Well,
on.
and we did have higher up seats. So maybe if you were a little lower down towards the field and you had, more expensive seats, you might have been getting a little bit wet. But it was really fun to go to a stadium outside of the United States. And apparently that one was actually modeled after U.S. Bank Stadium.
Yep, it looked a lot like it. Our
fun fact.
stadium in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. So the next day, Julie, why don't you tell them where we went? Because I kind of geek out about it.
Okay, Tony has this problem where he will watch a movie over and over and over again. He'll see it come on TV. Oh, I gotta watch this. I'm like, you've seen that 12 times, 50 times. Oh, I know, but it's such a good movie.
And this is such a weird one.
Yeah, because you're not really like a romantic comedy kind of guy. But whenever Notting Hill with Hugh Grant
And Julie Roberts.
and Julia Roberts comes on TV, he is sucked in like a vacuum, and
I
he
could
cannot
recite
leave.
the whole movie.
And honestly, it's not even that good of a movie.
I know. Yes, it is. It's a good movie.
Meh, it's fine. Yeah. So anyway,
So I've always
we
had a want to go to
Notting Hill. So we had to walk around Notting Hill, and it was actually really beautiful. Would you like
It
to
was-
describe it?
The row houses in Charleston where they have the rainbow row, and you got like 6 houses of different colors, and it's pretty, and everybody talks about it.
They're connected.
They're connected, and it looks pretty in photographs in Charleston. Okay, now times that by like 20, and you got all the streets around Notting Hill are all these beautiful colors, and they're majestic and old, and I didn't know it was that much. I knew there was some, but side street, different. It's stunning. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, and then
We took
interspersed-
pictures for probably an hour and a half.
We took probably you can load those
Yeah,
up now onto
yeah.
your new thing that we
Shutterstock.
talked about in our last podcast. But they also have really cute shops, and like you bought a hat.
Yep.
I bought a scarf and a scarf for Raina. So yeah, there's some fun little shops in that area, some nice restaurants. We had our fish and chips there for the first time.
At the Castle, I think it was called. It was good.
Yeah,
Good
it was
fish and
nice.
chips.
It was very good fish and chips. And you had these little smashed peas.
Oh, smashed peas. Never heard of it.
Which you're like, well, those look weird. They're literally smashed peas. They're bright green and they're all mushy.
Mushy. It was called mushy peas. Mushy
Well, they
peas.
were yummy. They were
Horrible name.
really yummy.
Tasty, though.
Yes.
So from there, we walked a little ways to a place called Little Venice. So there's a lot of canals throughout England and area, with the longboats. If you've ever heard about them, they're like, 8 feet wide and they're long, like 30, 40 feet long. And they navigate all the canalways around England. Well, there's some in London, and there's an area called Little Venice, and because of all the canals. And really cool artsy-fartsy boats with all the designs on them. Some of them not so much. Some of them shabby. But for in that area, a lot of them were upkept, I think, because it's a little bit of a tourist spot to go and see these boats. So it was a cool area.
It's a little bit reminiscent of Amsterdam on like a teeny tiny scale.
Yep.
I would say it was a lovely walk. It was interesting, but don't necessarily go way out of your way to do it.
So that night, we went and saw Hamilton. Now,
Fantastic.
we had never seen Hamilton, and our neighbors, Jennifer, is always like, you got to see it, you got to see it. In fact, at one point, they told us they were going to take us to New York, fly us out there, just so we could see it with them, because it was a shame that we hadn't seen it. And I don't know why we never did, but oh my goodness, best musical / play I've ever seen. It's up my alley. I like rap, and I like stuff. So the singy stuff, this was a cool musical for me. I loved it.
I liked it because it was historical, but a really, really cool twist. And the ending was amazing. And I was sobbing. I was actually sobbing.
So
it was
everybody on
very
this podcast
embarrassing.
has probably already heard Hamilton, so we're not telling them anything
No,
new.
we're
But
not.
what we can tell them that was cool about it is that we saw it in England, which is it's a New York story and a lot about our war with England for independence. And one of the characters in
Well, it's not a New York story.
Yes, it is. That's mostly New York. That's where they takes place when these guys were living. So, did you pay attention? They're in New York. Anyways, so that's why it's a big deal when it plays in New York City. Everybody gets excited. They're all in favor, like yay, rah, rah, the story. We were in England watching Hamilton, where the king, who's supposed to be the funny part, the
Comic relief.
comic relief, the crowd was cheering and yelling on all his parts because they're all British. It's all these Brits in England watching it. So it was really kind of surreal to be watching Hamilton while we were in England.
It was kind of oppositional. And it was a really lovely theater. It was the Victoria Palace Theater,
Yes.
I think, or something like that. It was just gilded in gold and had multi-levels. It was very beautiful.
And if you need a place to eat before that, because there's pretty expensive area around that area with fancy restaurants, there was a place that was just a block away called the Stoke House that we ate at. Stoke House. Great seasoned burgers. The
I don't know
burgers-
what they did to that burger,
Oh my
but it
God.
was absolutely spectacular.
So good. And they had
Yeah.
BOGO cocktails. So yeah, we might have had a couple there.
Yep. Very fun. Okay. And then the next day.
Next morning, I like tattoos. I don't have a lot, but I figured I'm going to start getting a lot more. And I like the idea of getting them to commemorate trips so I can remember I got that tattoo in that place and that place. But I didn't really know. I didn't want like a Big Ben clock tower or a London Bridge tattoo. So since we were there for the Vikings game,
Wait, can you please get the London Bridge like all across your back? That'd be really fun.
that would. So I'm not. I'm not a Vikings fan that's like a diehard fanatic Green Bay weirdo. I'm sorry, Green Bay fans, but you are weird. I'm not to that level. I'm not alienating anybody. They're Green Bay fans. Come on. I love you and hate you. Anywho, the next day I was like, you know what? I'm going to get a tattoo to remember this trip is the reason why we're here is for the Vikings game. So I got a little helmet horn, the horn that's on the side of the Vikings helmet. I put a little horn on the side of my leg. Now, there's rumors that there's going to be an NFL game in Madrid next year or the year after, and the Vikings might be one of those that get to go. So if we go to that game, I can get the corresponding horn on the other leg from my Madrid trip.
So you'll just be horny.
But
Yep,
that was
exciting.
By the way, the really cool thing here, when you're here in the U.S. and you want to get a tattoo, a lot of places, if they're really good, take forever. Like I got a 2-month or 3-month waiting list to get into my tattoo artist to get my tattoo. Abroad, a lot of the shops are walk up. Like you can go in and just get a tattoo and then walk out. And we walked to a place called West One Tattoo. And West One, I did research. It was like one of the top 2 or 3 in the city. It was inexpensive. Walked right in. Lipa, it was the woman's name. And she said, "What do you want?" Sat down, did a little makeup of it on my leg. And we were out of there in, 45 minutes?
Yeah,
If
no,
that.
somewhere there.
It was
Yeah.
it was fun.
You know.
It was real quick and on with the day. And it looks cool.
Yeah, it looks cool.
So then there we went and got breakfast. Now, Julie says, we don't need to talk about this. Drury 188-189. It's the address. You know what? When you're looking for a good breakfast, it's a cool place. The food was amazing. That's all you got to say. Nothing to write home about the room. Just a little place. It's up by, what's it called? That area. The Dials. Seven Dials. It's right by Seven Dials. Just on the east end of West End.
It's a good breakfast spot, but there are a lot of places. There's another really cool place called the Breakfast Club.
And the Breakfast Club also leads into another thing. But
Look
let's get to
out.
that in another speakeasy, but just give that a
should I?
minute. We'll end with that.
I'll say
Gotta
that.
save the speakeasies to the end.
Sorry. Well, then let's talk about, so there is a really cool, we like to find out the tricky things about where's a good place for a photo opportunity. So like your London Bridge thing, that was great. You go down below where you get a better view. Well, if you want to get a good view of the London Eye, which is that big Ferris wheel, you go across the river to Tattersall Castle. And that's
It's
actually
not a castle.
It's spoiler alert, it's not a castle. It's actually
a boat.
A boat. It's a big boat, but it's a permanent boat that's on the Thames, and it has views of Big Ben and the London Eye. It has all kinds of events that they do on there, but you can just go get a cocktail, enjoy the river, enjoy the views. It was just a lovely little spot. And ironically, we're sitting there and
Ironically.
two gals sit down near us, and it was really windy, so it was like trying to hang on to everything. And I left for a few minutes to go to the restroom, and we came back and Tony was talking to them, and they are literally from Minnesota.
10 minutes away.
And say not even from very far away from us. So that was kind of neat. And then later on, we ran into them again at another place later on the trip. What are the odds of that? Crazy.
So a couple things. Let's finish with a couple of these last 3 or 4 things that we did that were really cool. One was the vault at Leek Street's Arches, and this is an underground tunnel that is all street art. It's like Brick Lane that we talked about earlier on crack.
This is a must-do.
A must-do.
Must
so cool.
do.
The photography in this tunnel. It's a huge, long tunnel that goes underneath the Waterloo terminal. And from end to end, it gets painted over daily. It's constantly being painted over by one artist. Might be up there for a day or two, and another artist will paint over it. It is really fascinating. So go see that, the vault. Dinner-wise, we got reservations one time. We were lucky enough to get reservations at the place that I wanted to go to more than anything else in London, Dishoom. Dishoom is an Irani, Bombay, Indian food cafe type restaurant. It's a restaurant, but now they have like 6 or 7 of them. But the original one's is up in Shoreditch. But we went to one down
In the Battersea location.
in the Battersea, which is south and west a little bit from downtown London. We had to take different trains to get there. And it was kind of a little bit on the far outside. And as a brand new restaurant, oh my goodness, the best, one of the top 3 meals of my life. Amazing.
It was spectacular, and we said that we would fly back to London. If we had the means, we would fly to London just to go to this restaurant.
Yeah.
It was so delicious.
You want to hear more about it, just let us know, and we'll tell you. We'll talk a whole podcast on our meal. But it was,
Yeah, no kidding.
it was so
I'm
good.
still thinking
Dishoom.
about it. Yeah, Dishoom.
But when we're down there, we had no way of getting back quickly. And we had read about this already, so we thought it would be really cool. There's an Uber boat, yes, Uber boat in England, in London, that runs up and down the river. So you can do an Uber boat. We took it from Battersea Station right up to where our hotel is, just like a couple blocks up from our hotel, and got off of the dock and got on the boat. It's a ferry boat, a lot of people. But you get your tickets for your destination, whatever, and you hop on and you pay that much.
On your Uber
On
app.
your Uber app. You do it through your Uber app.
And then, so you
It's
wait
so
in line
cool.
for the boat to come. You get on. There was only like 4 or 6, there was hardly anybody on this boat with us. It was a big boat. Granted, it was like 11 o'clock at night. But it was spectacular because we had views all the way down the Thames of Westminster and Big Ben. And we've got really, really cool photos from the water at night. It was awesome.
So then when we got back right where we got off the boat, we went to a really cool cave bar that I have been waiting to try and get Julie to on a surprise, and it's called Gordon's Wine Bar. It's the oldest wine bar in the city. It dates back to 1890. And when you get there, don't stand in line outside in the rain like we did, waiting for the cafe area, which is an outside area. Ask the guy,
And
say, I want to
not
go.
cool.
And not cool. Well, it's cool. It's a little
Kind of gardeny, but I mean,
gardeny.
it's not nearly
But-
as cool as the interior.
Go to the photos on our site and look at the inside of the cave. It's like a low dungeon type area. It's in like an old dungeon kind of cave, and the wine is good wines, but it's just the atmosphere. And you have to go inside, put your name in right away to get into the cave area. You don't want to sit outside of that. You want to sit in the cave area.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was all brick, and you really need to duck if you're tall. You better duck down low, and then it's all lit by candlelight. So
All
it
candles.
had a really amazing atmosphere.
So that leads us kind of a speakeasy vibe. I'm going to briefly and quickly go through some speakeasy aspects of because we did a lot of them, but I'm going to tell you about the coolest ones we liked. The first speakeasy when we got to London, it was the very first bar we went to, and it was called the Evaristo Club. It's in West End, and it was like a little divey place down in the basement. You got to go in. We had to give them ID, there's people that have this as a club where you give them your ID and then you pay, and then you have a club for a membership for the year, and you get to go in there when there's live bands, and you get special treatment to get in. It was pretty cool, very clubbish atmosphere.
Very small though.
Yeah, like
Like
you can
really
only put
small.
like 15
If they have
people,
live
20
music,
people.
there's not that many people listening to it because it is a really small little area.
And there was a woman setting up for doing her show that night, and we were early, so
I
we
would
didn't
have
get to get.
loved to have seen her because she
jazzy.
kind of does that old jazzy, speakeasy 20s music. That would have been really cool. But
So the next one we went with our friends, and it's called the Mayor of Scaredy Cat Town. Cool name. It's in the basement of where Julie was prior on her trip with Raina. They were
For
there
breakfast.
for breakfast. There's a what's it called? The
Breakfast Club.
The Breakfast Club. So they had been there for breakfast years ago and saw people going in and out of a refrigerator.
yeah,
And she's like,
I was
"There's
like,
got to be a
something
speakeasy."
funky's going on with that refrigerator.
They didn't
over
know.
there.
Well, we found out about it going on this trip, and we planned on it and had reservations inside the Mayor of Scaredy Cat Town. And with Chris and Julie, our friends, our traveling friends that were also in London, we went to that. It was really cool.
The funny thing was, I didn't know that was the name of it. So when we walked into that place, I was like,
Deja
wait a
vu.
minute. I've been here. This is where Raina and I did breakfast. That's the refrigerator.
And-
it all came together. And then when you leave, you exit through the bathrooms.
Yep. So you
So
come
you
out a
go
different way.
in a refrigerator, they send you out a different way, and you go out through the bathroom. So it just looks like you're people coming out of the bathroom.
The last one was the coolest one. It's called Cash Cash. Now, first of all, as a geocacher, and it's spelled CACHE, Cash Cash, I was like, this is going to be fun. But this is in Covent Gardens, and it's in the basement. It's in a bathroom kind of a thing. It's really bizarre. Now it has gotten so popular that they have guards out front. They have people that'll walk you down, push in to enter the codes, get you through. But what you do is you go to the basement have reservations if you want to go in, because you get a table and you want a table in this place. You don't want to stand around. But when you go to the bathrooms, the loo, at Covent Gardens underneath these restaurants and shops, they bring you downstairs and you go into the bathroom. And then at one end, there's this giant mirror that is, person size, a little bit bigger than person size, right next to all the stalls for the bathrooms. But you go to that, knock on that mirror, and somebody opens on the other side, and you walk into the speakeasy through the bathroom, back into the bathroom. And it was awesome. Very cool, well lit. They had go-go dancers later on as we were sitting there after a while of eating and drinking.
That first chamber was like all mirrored.
Yeah.
It was really
Sparkly
cool. And
mirrored.
so you actually go through another chamber. You wait
Multiple,
there
yeah.
until the concierge comes and gets you.
Yep.
Whatever.
And it's all really uniquely lit. We got photos. Take a look. And then there was dancers that came out scantily clad, but it was part of the vibe.
Like
and they get up on
Vegas
pedestals
showgirls,
and they dance, and it's just a really cool place. So that was
And they have really good food. Such good food that we ordered them twice. We're like,
did.
we need another round of all of that. Just
the
bring another.
avocado. God, what was it? The avocado. Something with the avocado. It was so good. Avocado rolls in some way. Anyways, that was our trip to London. Will we go back? Yeah, I said after like this, 24 hours in, I'm like, I could live here. It is so much fun. There's so much to do. You could live there for 5 years and not even come close to doing all the stuff there.
And the restaurants were so cool because there was just so much variety and just all different ethnicities. It would take weeks to go to all the fun places.
We wanted to eat a different Iranian place. There was, you name any country in the world, their food is in that town. It's everywhere you look.
Yeah.
So we'll be going back hopefully soon. But for now, until our next episode, thank you for joining and
And wheels up.